Okay, so this is attempt third and final. We get the live chat working. I've got the audio working. All of it is miraculous, and here we are. So I am super sorry that I've made a mess of this whole thing. Um, so this is yeah, no, it's great. After a whole hour of me talking effectively to my back pocket, now it's it sounds better when the microphone is actually right next to me. So I really apologize for derailing that whole thing. I thought we were having a pretty good chat there. So yeah, my bad. Now I know. Now I know. So at least it sounds good now. But where were we? We were talking about all different kinds of things. Yeah, Venture Mike, you're right. I couldn't hear you either. Busted Wall Garage. When is part two of the Drag Slicks coming? It's going to be a minute. It is coming, and that's going to be another really long video because it's a lot of detail and it's a lot of science and engineering. I actually had conversations with the global head of motorsports for Goodyear to work on the second half of that video. So like, there's a lot going into that one. It's going to be a minute, but I promise it is going to happen. Yeah, Torque Addict. Yeah, I can see myself, which is a problem. Damian Harrington, here's some good news. There is a mobile NHRA game on the way, and so you'll be able to play NHRA drag racing on your phone. Barry Cuda, yes. And for those of you that were not on the stream when we first got going about an hour ago, Ed Iskandarian did pass away today at the age of 104. Incredible man, incredible legacy, and just a sad day to a degree. But man, what a life the man lived, and what a legacy he's created, and what a great company that his name continues to be attached to. Rocky Myers, it will be a good one at some point. As much as I have like kind of worked on that story, there is still a lot of people that are way too close to it, that are still around racing that don't want to talk about it. So eventually, down the road, when everybody's retired and gone, they will probably spill the beans. But yeah, Daytona Fire. What is my favorite moment in drag racing history? Ooh, that I've witnessed. John Force's 150th and Brittany Force's 345-mile-an-hour run, or 343 rather. Um, those were two incredible ones. That's the big stuff for me. As far as two that I can name off the top of my head, and that NHRA game is coming on your phone this year. Oh, thank you for checking that out, Paul. The yeah, making that video about the cars that kind of brought us to pro stock. Certainly good. NHRA start doing drag and drive events. I don't think the NHRA is going to be, in the business, so to speak, of going into drag and drive events, but NHRA supports drag and drive. We've had drag and drive exhibitions and all kinds of stuff going on for years. What is my favorite class in drag racing? Man, I'll be honest with you. I can find something to love about all of it, and I know that is a like a crummy answer, but I can find the precision and absolute finite level of skill you need to be successful in index drag racing. I can find that being to be very appealing. I can find the raw performance of heads up racing with small tires and big tires awesome. Pro modifieds I've loved since I was a kid. Nostalgia front engine top fuel cars are incredible. I mean, give me a class and I'll tell you why I like it. So Chris Mahan, yes, that the Boatown Express was the name of the car you're talking about. It was a dragster that had two Rolls Royce turbine engines set side by side in the back, and it was called the Boatown Express. It ran only a couple of years. It was an incredible looking thing. Traveled around some. It was found completely intact. It was sitting in a trailer for decades, but that car does exist. Barry Kuda, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you enjoying those videos, and I like making them. And I make them because people like you watch them, and it's a rewarding thing to put all that history out there and to have people kind of be into it. Best stage duel of all time for me. I mean, for me personally, that's a tough one. I mean, I think over, the very famous one of Warren Johnson and Scott Jeffrey is probably the most famous one, ever kind of held side by side. But for me personally, some good Pro Mod ones over the years. Definitely excited about Modified Eliminator coming back. My dogs are excited about it too, as you can hear. But yeah, Modified being part of comp is a big deal. I've never been to Woodburn. I've always wanted to go to Woodburn. The Severance family does such a great job there, so definitely a place I want to go. I've never been. Have I done a deep dive on the safety safari? So the deep dive you're going to get on the safety safari is going to come through the NHRA this year. Our celebration of the 75th anniversary of NHRA is going to honor the history of every element of the NHRA, including the safety safari. We've worked on a lot of great content already to highlight that over the course of the year. So you're going to get plenty of safety safari history and content throughout the season. Monica Albus being at Maple Grove Raceway. Yeah, that one stinks. Always love going to Maple Grove, the Keystones, the whole deal. That place is one of a kind with a one of a kind fan base. Will I do a podcast episode or a video in honor of Ed Iskandarian? I'm sure you'll find some crazy stories from his career as a forefather of hot rodding. Ed will continue to be a fixture in a lot of these historical videos I make. Ed shows up in all this stuff. There really isn't a story from that era of time that Ed Iskandarian did not have a role in, if you will, did not have some sort of effect on. So, a book, there has just been a book published about Ed's life, and I recommend you buy it. It's a CarTech book. I just received a copy of it. I've been tearing through it the last couple of days. It is very well done. I recommend you buy the Ed Iskandarian book, honor the man's legacy, certainly now that he has passed. I've never heard of Loans Chassis before. I've never heard of that company. So no, no one in my family has been a chassis builder that I know of. In a gang war, who do you want on your side? Team Offenhauser or Team Cosworth? Ooh, I don't know, man. If we're fighting with engine parts, I want the Offenhauser parts because they're way bigger and heavier than the Cosworth stuff. So maybe I'm going with the Offie guys because the pistons and connecting rods in those engines, you could take some dudes out with that stuff. So I'm going Offie on that one. Still looking for a Ford GAA tank engine. That's one of my favorites. 1,000 cubic inch or 1,100 cubic inch, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, all aluminum V8 made in World War II. My official baptism by nitro, I've been around a lot of race cars, but, the reality of the situation is my real first, if you want to call it that. I got to warm up Pete Kaiser's Top Fuel dragster at the Nightfire Nationals last year, a front engine slingshot dragster. I'd never been in one when it was running. That was unreal. Good goal to meet Fast Jack Beckman this year. Going back to Freiburg and Finnegan coming to Epping. I know Finnegan wants to come up with a check. Yeah, Finn, those guys will make it up here somewhere. Dirt 1988. I don't know. I mean, I don't. I honestly I can't say I have an opinion on that because I don't know enough about the scene of stock car racing. I enjoy stock car racing. I like it as a spectator. I like it as a educated viewer, but I don't know about the business of stock car racing, so I can't speak to that. Any timeline on part 2 of the history of drag slicks and any chance we get a video on the short run of NHRA Pro front wheel drive? The Pro front wheel drive stuff would actually be a pretty good story to tell for sure. The history of drag slicks part 2, it's in process. I'm going to tell you, it's probably not going to be a month or two because those long form ones take forever in a good way to make right. So you're going to see some other shorter videos coming in as I work on those long-term projects. The air racing video, Robin is critical. Thank you. Clay Lacy, epic. I flew out to Southern California last week and I landed next to the Clay Lacy hangar at Santa Ana and I had to smile seeing his name on the side of the building. The answer is yes. I have been to Bonneville. I went to Bonneville for about a decade straight with myself and Chad Reynolds, Wes Allison covering Speed Week. And it's an incredible place. I haven't been back in several years because that same weekend I go to the Nightfire Nationals in Boise, Idaho now. I call that drag race, so that keeps me away from Speed Week, but there's nothing like Bonneville. It's legitimately the greatest racing event in the world if you've never been. Ricebox 1178, the what led to them not having drag racing anymore was that selling off a large part of the property, and being unable to host drag races because they didn't have the room to put it on. The family decided to sell the property, and that was that. Who is my favorite driver in NHRA? I can't say that I got friends. Everybody's got friends. I can't say I have a favorite driver. I mean, in all time history, it's Don Garlits. My all time favorite driver racer of all time is Don Garlits, so I can answer it that way. Any good Bob Fry stories? So I'm going to go another 10 minutes. I'll give you a Bob Fry story. Bob Fry is the reason I for NHRA and largely the reason I have the job I do now. So I never met Bob until 2013. I was announcing the NHRA at the time. It's called the National Hot Rod Reunion in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I had been announcing drag racing since I was 18 years old, and Steve Gibbs I met. He offered me the job to go to Bowling Green to do this event. Bob came to the event. Bob heard me announcing the event and was like, "Hey, there's a national event for the first time at your track at Epping next weekend. Does NHRA know you exist?" And I said, "No, as a matter of fact, they don't know I exist." Bob called the NHRA, got me a tryout at that race, and that tryout led to me being a national event announcer in 2014, which I worked in the events until 2018, and then I was offered the job to be the broadcaster in 2019. So that is my good Bob Fry story. Chris, I'm always tinkering around with my old tractor. Thing runs like a top now. It's been plowing snow all winter long, so it's my favorite thing to play around with. Would love to do that trip with David at some point. It would be great. Professor Gins, I bet you could. I mean, honestly, I think there is, but I mean, I don't know where it would be outlawed. Would it be considered like a multiple power adder situation? I mean, they're hybrid street cars, so I don't know how you. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, and you may well be right, but I don't know where specifically in the rule book it would be outlawed. Um, I'd have to guess figure out which class you're trying to put it in, but you could do it you could build an outlaw pro mod with that drivetrain in it. Those guys would let you do it. New England Hot Rod Reunion was cool. Unfortunately, it just wasn't popular enough to sustain itself. Modified Eliminator is now back in as a class in competition eliminator. So yes, Modified Eliminator is back in the world of NHRA drag racing as part of Comp Eliminator, which is pretty awesome. Dad drove Ram Chargers. Oh man, so your dad is Donald Westerdale. Your dad is the Don Westerdale that drove for the Ram Chargers. That is insane. Okay, that is amazing that a member of the Westerdale family is in here. Man, your dad was a very highly regarded guy back in the day, and the Ram Chargers, of course, absolute legends. Thorn M. My official race announcing career started when I was in college. I was about 18 years old in a motorsports club. We raced a Volkswagen Rabbit in SCCA. They needed a road racing announcer in the New England region, and I had never once in my life spoken publicly into a microphone, but I felt I could do the job, which I really couldn't, but I learned how. And I've always loved drag racing beyond all other motorsports. It gave me the confidence to call Glenn Grow at Lebanon Valley Dragway, at which I started announcing at Lebanon Valley on Test and Tunes. And then I would go home in the summer times to work at Epping. And then when I go back to school in the fall, I started working at Bolt Tracks at the same time. And I was sleeping in my truck at New England Dragway until the track manager gave me keys, and I used to sleep in the tower. I know Orlando. Orlando definitely has banned electric vehicles. I don't know if anybody else has. Steve Pill, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I hope that it does because I do put a lot of that into it, and I'm glad that you feel as though it makes it through. Lick and Lonnie, thank you very much. That's very generous of you. I can't thank you enough. So the Gasser reunion, I went to the Gasser reunion in 2002. That was the first and only time I ever went out there. I drove out there to what was then Thompson Drag Raceway. And the neat thing about that was I got to meet Big John Masmanian, Bones Baylaw. A lot of the guys were still alive at that point back in 2002. KS Pittman was there. All that was very cool. Dirt 1988. I've never heard of a V6 Hemi made in Australia. I've heard of the Aussie Hemi 6, which was an inline six engine, which in many ways was kind of their most celebrated muscle car engine, unless you're a Ford Cleveland fan, in which case, no, or you're a GM fan and you like small blocks. Ted Seipel's drag car. You guys love nostalgia, me too. Thanks for what you do. Okay, yeah, Ted Seipel's car, the Ferrari. Ted's had a bunch of cool ones over the years. Paul, I worked at Lebanon Valley from the very late 90s, early 2000s until about '02, and I would work there basically on Saturdays. Marty Morris, I've never talked to Dr. Post. I have read his book at least 100 times, I front to back, side to side, up and down. I use it a lot as a reference. Napier Deltic would be a good one. That is a two-stroke triangular laid out engine with pistons that run toward each other. It is an epic. The Deltic engine family is insane. I can't, off the top of my head, my favorite memory being at the track. I don't know. Thank you very much, Thorne. That's again very generous, and Don Westerdale. I can't. It makes me smile to know that you're in the room right now, especially with the legacy that your family has in drag racing. Mac Daddy, I got tied up. I met Jimmy Dale at down at. I've met him last year at an event called the MPMC conference, and we've maintained contact. Certainly respect what he and Mike Poland are doing. Their investment in Streetcar Takeover. Little Gangsters is an incredible class, and Jimmy's a good dude. I admire his hustle. I admire what he's doing. I admire how he does it with his heart kind of on his sleeve, and to be able to kind of collaborate with him on one of his videos is very cool. Back in the 1980s, there was a well-known guy named Diesel Dragster. Done a feature on him in the car. So there's been some 80s. I mean, there's been some diesel stuff around for a while. There's a guy in Connecticut named Diesel Doug Doring who actually ran it was a Detroit diesel two-stroke that was turbocharged. He ran it in super gas with a Lenko behind it. It was in a pickup truck of all things. That was a wild thing. And there have been some. You might be thinking of John Kerry. John Kerry was a top fuel racer who was also in the diesel thing, and he may have also had a diesel dragster. Got a Valiant with a 245 cubic inch Hemi 6. That's awesome, Barracuda. Diggs Outdoors. That's a mind-bogglingly awesome thing to hear from you. That is a mind-bogglingly great thing to hear from you. Thank you. Hello, Oklahoma. Yeah, back when Glenn was running that racetrack, and Glenn now works for the NHRA, so he and I have been reunited, so to speak. I loved my time at Lebanon Valley. QMAC Performance, hello. Yeah, Eric, McCooney, Pennsylvania. Go down to Mac if you've never been to their headquarters or their kind of heritage center down in McCooney. It's epic. Connecticut Dragway closed when I was like a baby, so I never got there. Napier Deltic 6 engine with no cylinder head, similar to, the Commer Knocker. The Commer Knocker that laid flat under the floor of the buses. Professor Gins, I agree with you 100%. Freiberger and I were talking about that. We're definitely, that exact point was what we were talking about this afternoon. He is, I do believe his passing officially closes the chapter on the first generation of hot rodders. Glenn Nickerson. I don't have a hot rod. I like old tractors. So over the years, I've tinkered with and messed around with a bunch of old tractors. I currently have an old 1940s N series tractor. I do have like a 500 horsepower small block on my engine stand in the garage, and a completely disassembled 8BA flathead in my garage that needs a home too. So I need to figure something out. My son's got a hot rod. So my son's car is actually going to begin appearing on this channel. He has an 03 Mercury Marauder. It's his first car. He bought it with his own money. He and I fixed the thing up. He's begun drag racing it. So coming up in the coming weeks, we're going to be doing some driveline upgrades on this thing. We're going to pull the axle out of it. He's got a 410 ring and pinion to put in it. Eaton True Track is going in the back of that thing, and then it's going to the drag strip, and it will run 13s in the spring. Bet your bottom dollar it's already been to the very low 14s. So that will be the car project on the channel coming up. Calvin Walker, thank you very much, man. Appreciate you, and I appreciate your channel, Calvin. You got good stuff on that channel. Like you got some deep cut, great drag racing history on your channel. So kudos to you. I love popping in there and checking out your stuff. My favorite racing event is the U.S. Nationals. Can say that without any hesitation. Vintage Adventure Drives, I didn't know I did lives either until I decided to do this one tonight and made a mess of the first part of this. The first part of this, the sound was all jacked up. You've come in at the peak time because it's actually working and listenable. Venture Bike, I miss being down there. Those races were some of the most fun of my life. Sometimes the most frustrating of my life, but very fun memories down there. That is insane. Clayton Taylor coming off the top rope with the story of Diesel Doug's two-stroke Detroit running away at the racetrack. Oh my God. Ricebox, my opinion is the 426 Hemi structurally is a very robustly built engine. And the overhead cams, everyone talks about the timing chain. The complexity of the engine didn't help it. Of course, you had Ed Pink and Pete Robinson developed the gear drives, but reality is those engines were produced in such small volume. They really they were not a volume produced engine. That's why the Hemi wins by volume, my opinion. Barracuda, I am in the northeastern part of the United States, and it is very cold. Kevin, for fun, that goes back a ways. Yes, the go-karts. Both my sons had go-karts. They've since sold them and graduated onto full-size cars. But yes, we did. Yes, Marty Morris. I've worked with a lot of people from the old Diamond P network. In fact, there are a lot of people on our shows today at the NHRA that still are from the Diamond P days, believe it or not. A guy named Tom Gee was the producer of those great NHRA drag races in the 90s and 80s. I worked with him on a show I did called Motorhead Garage that was on the Velocity channel at the time. So yeah, I worked directly with him. So I'm going to wrap this baby up in just a couple of minutes. If you do any drag, if you could drive any drag car from the beginning of it all to now, what would it be? Oof. Any drag car from the beginning of it all to present, what would it be? That is a great question. I would probably say Bob Glidden's Thunderbird. Bob Glidden's like 86, 87 Thunderbird or the Fairmont. Bob Glidden's Fairmont, the car that went undefeated for a calendar year. That's the car I would drive, the Fairmont. Dino Tune, I am way looking forward to Gainesville. 75th season of NHRA is going to be off the charts. It's going to be unreal. The high and mighty be a good one. A Street Roadster action, Jeff. The high and mighty would be good. There's nothing wrong with a good old fashioned A Street Roadster with a Hemi hanging all out of the front of it. Glenn Nickerson, I do get up to New England Dragway on occasion. My son's old enough to be racing his car now, and so we go up there for testing 2 nights. And like I said before, we're going to be hopping that thing up, and we'll be covering the hop up on the channel. He's got an 03 Marauder, which we didn't know this at the time, but the thing's kind of a street racer special, and it almost ran into the 14s in the fall, or rather almost ran into the 13s in the fall. We're going to put a 410 ring and pinion in it and a true shack, and it will go 13s in the spring. And the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. First, and thank you, Grover Gruber, for saying that. One thing I'm going to wrap up is the fact that I mentioned this in the beginning of the other one. That's kind of an announcement to make regarding the channel. So coming out in a couple of weeks, really next week, for those of you that know drag racing history, you know the name Dave Wallace. Wallace is arguably the greatest drag racing journalist that the sport has ever known. Incredible man who has an incredible historical archive, who has curated this archive and maintained it and kept it for many, many years. And he is relocating. He's moving. And he has entrusted me with this archive. So there's going to be a cross-country trip happening on our channel, and it's going to be happening in the pretty near future. And to me, what this being able to steward this archive, what it means is an incredible array of content is going to come out of this thing. Stuff that in my wildest dreams I never thought I'd have access to. I will have access to research material, original photos, all kinds of things that I, in my wildest dreams, I never would have expected this. So you will see a video coming in the next few days, which is going to be a traditional research type of video. And then, like, the next content you're going to see in the channel is going to be about a cross country trip my son and I are going to take. We're going to fly out to Mr. Wallace's house, gather all these things, load them into a big truck, and then he and I are going to drive all the way back across America to my home outside of the Boston, Massachusetts area, over 3,000 miles, a couple of stops along the way, do some gearhead stuff, and kind of come home with a load of stuff that I never would have dreamed. So thank you all for hanging out. Thank you. And I'm sorry for the audio issues before. I'm glad I've got this all figured out now. So the next time I do this, whenever that may be, will not be a giant mess like the first one. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. NHRA is coming. Gainesville, couple of weeks in March. If you're not going to be there, watch us. It's going to be great. Thanks, everybody. See ya.